So for this video, we're going to be looking at The Wasted Hack. It's a post-apocalyptic role-playing game by Aaron Frost, and it's made using the Black Hack. So this book and two other books, which we'll be taking a look at in another video, were provided by a subscriber by the name of Shocker CK, and I'm very thankful, so big shout out to him for providing these books for us to take a look at. He's a fan of it, he's made me a fan of it, and let's see what the game has to offer. So obviously, right off the bat, you can see it's got kind of this distressed look. I really like the way that is. I don't know, just something about it. Obviously, with a post-apocalyptic game, it just kind of fits. You can see a bit of art here. It's kind of like this zombie biker here. And I like the font. So far, so good. It doesn't have the name on the spine, but I'm pretty sure you could tell on your shelf what game that is. And then here's the back. Gear up, you miserable wreckers. The great ruined world ain't going to save itself. And it's got, again, that art. So Aaron also did the art for this game as well. And the first thing I was like, well, that's a little cartoony. And then I started thinking about it, and I said, well, I kind of like this. This is different, and I think it fits the game. And it's not that I'm tired of seeing same old art, but it's nice to have a change every once in a while. So it's doing something different, and I think it does a good job. So this is based off the first edition of Black Hack. And from what my limited knowledge of the Black Hack is that the game is also always kind of suffered from a little bit of armor issues. They've tried to fix that in the second edition, but this one is based off the first. So that's kind of what I'm going to focus on. And Aaron has kind of changed the rules for the Black Hack to fit this setting for armor, and I think he's done a decent job. It seems to be a sticking point no matter what. It doesn't seem to please everybody, even in the first editions or the second edition. So here we've got the beginning, you've got the table of contents here. That's pretty easy. And then it's going to tell you about the end times, war, pretty normal stuff when it comes to post-apocalyptic things and role-playing games. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the Black Hack, just a kind of a little primer here. So the core mechanic is it's all your normal stats for D&D, and you're going to roll low. So to me, it's like playing first or second edition D&D. You roll, usually that's your stat or below, but this is below your stat, not equal to your stat. And that's how you're going to accomplish stuff. So it's player facing, where the players will roll their stat to hit and their stat to defend against stuff. There's advantage and disadvantages, which I'm certain that you'll know if you've played D&D 5th edition, and it's all the rage. There's also double advantage and double disadvantage, which I'm a fan of, imposing a -2 or a +2 penalty to rolls. So because sometimes those blanket things don't always equal out, and I'm glad that there's a double advantage and disadvantage. So the Black Hack uses action dice and kind of a usage dice system. So if you have an ability, like in this game you have mutations or other abilities, you're going to have either basic or advanced ones, and the basic is a D6 and the advanced is a D4. So whenever you use that ability, you're going to roll that die. So if it's a basic attack, basic action die, you're going to have a D6, and if you roll a 1 or a 2, it's going to go down to a D4. And then if you do that again, it's going to become exhausted, and you can't use it again until you sleep. And it's going to be the same for the advanced action die, which is only a D4. So you've got a 50% chance of it degrading down from a D4 to exhausted, and then you can't use it. So obviously these are stronger abilities. And it's a neat concept to be able to have that kind of tracking down your abilities, as well as ammo and all sorts of other stuff that's in the game. With experienced characters at level 5, this basic action is going to go to a D8. This advanced action die is going to go to a D6. And then there are degrees of success. Pretty much rolling half of your stat is going to be a good success. Rolling a 1 is going to be a great success, in essence, kind of a critical. And then if you roll above your attribute, that's a failure. If you roll a 20, that's pretty much a botch. It's a dismal failure. Now, that does bring me to a thing where I think the basic action die and the advanced action die, and then there's ammo and there's usage and durability. You're going to have to keep track of all those and where they are. So that could be a little bit challenging for some people, but I think it's a neat way. And it's a lot of that, I know that a lot of that kind of comes from house rules people were using for ammo and stuff, and now this has been used over the whole game. So you've got your normal stats there. You're going to generate them with a 3d6, but once you get a 15 plus, your next stat is going to be rolled with a 2d6 plus 2. It's kind of bringing you down a little bit so you don't have a super high stat character. And then once you've done that, you continue with 3d6. And then again, if you get a 15 or more, you're going to go back to the 2d6. And then once all stats are generated, 2 may be swapped with one another. Now, as you can see on this page, I really like the font. I like this font that he's used for kind of the headers and stuff, but just the normal font. It stands out bold. I love this kind of distressed yellow paper. And then here's his art. It's very simple. It's cartoonish, but I think it works. So then you're going to have to choose your class. You've got the Savage, the Veteran, and the Scavenger, and the Infected. So you've got 4 classes. The Savage is going to be kind of like your melee user. Your Veteran is going to be your ranged military type. Your Scavenger is going to be kind of like your thief. And then the Infected are going to be, in essence, kind of ghouls from Fallout, in which they have been infected with some sort of terrible disease. They have little memory of their life before the infection, and they are prone to developing mutations. So you're going to get some starting equipment. You're going to get some starting kind of inventory, like money. You can spend credits to buy some stuff. They will give you a hand weapon and some clothes. And then just going to talk about the equipment and how much you can carry. Very easy. Certain items, you can only carry up a certain amount of items up to your strength stat. And then certain items eat up more of those kind of points, if you wish, costs. Like a light armor is 1 item. Medium armor is 2, heavy is 3. And normal gears count as 1 unless it says otherwise. Again, you can see his art. So, pretty basic stuff here about your starting hit points, how much hit points you get when you level or when you rest. There's types of special abilities. They can be an upgrade, they can take your action, they can be a reaction, they can buff your action. You may have to spend a luck point, which is something we'll talk about in the back. And then they might be pyrrhic, meaning that they do damage to the user. So when we get to the character classes here, you'll be able to understand a little bit more. And then some equipment have special abilities that they can do with their own action die that, again, once you use it, may degrade down and it can't be used anymore. A lot of stuff in this game gets jammed or broken or destroyed, and I think that's really good for a post-apocalyptic game to have a mechanic in there in which you're going to destroy your equipment and be on the search for more, because sometimes in these games it seems like unless you have that mechanic in there, you're just okay with this put together gear. It shouldn't be. You should be always kind of scrounging, trying to fix stuff, make stuff better, looking for a better type of defense or weapon. So I'm glad that it has that in the game. So here's the first class, the Savage, and they're going to get a melee action, 1 melee action for every 3 levels. Now the original Black Hack first edition had a bit of a broken thing where you got an extra melee attack for every level. So that means when you hit level 10, you got 10 attack actions. And people have tried to, fix that rule and stuff like that. And I think they believe that they fixed that in the second edition. But he's changed it up. So he's obviously seen some of the issues that the Black Hack has. So your attack damage for the Savage is D8. It's a D6 with ranged. So any ranged weapon, unless it's specifically something different, that's how much damage they're always going to do in melee or in ranged. So it keeps it easy. Then the main cool thing about Black Hack, and of course, I see this game as kind of an opposite now to Merkborg, a game that's kind of the same, again, player-facing where they make rolls, but it seems like the Black Hack, and especially this game, they just give you a little bit more meat that might be missing in Merkborg in just a simple rules situation. So on even levels, you can choose a new basic or universal special. On odd levels, you get an advanced version. So this is all the Savage basic ones. And so you're going to be able to pick one of these, and it's going to tell you how, if it's an upgrade, or you can use it once like this barbaric melee attacks inflict +1 damage. You can get that once. It's an upgrade, 1 shot. You can't get it any more times. And then, so you can, pick and choose which one you want. And then you get advanced special features, which of course is going to use that D4. They're going to be stronger. They may require a basic one. And then in the back of the character classes, you're going to have universal ones that you can switch out if you want instead of getting one of your own class special ones. So here's the Veteran. They're going to do the same, getting multiple attacks, but it's going to be every 3 levels, but it's going to be for ranged attacks. And the same thing again, their own basic and advanced special features. The Scavenger is going to be, that's going to be your thief. They get to roll advantage when testing wisdom to spot hidden objects or traps. and they gain an extra action upon reaching level 5. So they don't get it as easy as the other two, but when they get level 5, they do. And they're going to get increased attribute rolls for dexterity and intelligence. You roll once to test to see if you get a mutation, which sometimes I don't have to say roll under character level. Well, that's going to be difficult at first level, obviously. So as more you're in the world, you're more prone to getting mutations as you level up. And then again, basic special feature, abilities, and then the scavenger ones. Here's the infected. They roll advantage with any constitution test to avoid damage and start with one randomly selected mutation. So that's very cool. And then they've got their own, of course, here's disgusting. They have to eat brains to regain D4 hit points once per hour. Some neat things that they can do, obviously, that are unique. So a little bit more of a unique character class here. And then you're going to have the basic ones that anybody can get. And these are going to be fairly, understandable. Gain an additional class weapon type. Increase your inventory spaces by 2. That's just a one-shot. Your unarmed melee attacks increase by +2. You get advantage to attack with martial arts and defense versus unarmed foes, untrained in martial arts, dual wield, things like that are fairly easy. Then you're going to have a section of mutations. And again, when you roll to gain mutations, it's going to be a D20, and you have to roll it. The die value's got to be lower than your new level. So when you're going to level 2, it's going to have to, if you roll a 1, you'll get a mutation. But the infected, they get to roll with advantage. So, and again, this is advantage rolling low, again, because this is a roll low system, except for, obviously, rolling damage. And then they're all going to have their own action dice, all the same. It could be either a D6 or a D4, and then here's a random list. And a lot of these they're not super crazy as some of the mutant games that are out there, but, like, here's a permanent +1 dexterity. Here is, you have a heat sink. You can roll advantage on dexterity to test to hide from automatons and machines. There's a lot that are just straight damage ones. Pyrokinesis here, you do 1d6 nearby. That's the range, because it has different range bands. And there's many of these that are kind of the same, just doing different damage where it's like fire or cold or acid. So stuff like that. But a lot of these are very useful, very cool. And again, they're not so crazy. You're not going to have a bunch of wings and tentacles and dog head and stuff like that. So there's those you can roll up. And then you're going to get into the gear. Now, where he did before, for the first edition for Black Hack, you had a certain amount of armor points. And once those went away, you just started taking damage normally. Pretty much, if you failed your test to defend, you would take the damage onto your character's hit points. Well, what he's done is he's lowered some of the armor points down, and you can get shields and helmets as well to help. But once you have lost your armor points, your armor still has resistance, with light armor reducing the damage by 1, medium by 2, heavy by 3. So that will be permanent, as you can see, after you've lost your armor points. And I think that's, again, it's another take on how to kind of, I guess you would say, fix the Black Hack's armor issues. Some of the shields and helmets, they have kind of their own ability. The shield can be splintered. The helmet can be a lifesaver, turning a dismal failure on a defense roll into a standard one if you somehow crit yourself. And then, of course, there's penalties for armor. Melee weapons, some of them also have their own little abilities here, such as durability die, whether or not the weapon is going to be destroyed. Rules for two-handed weapons, and that's how you're going to be able to kind of change up so that you're not just using that same melee or range die for your class. If it's a two-handed weapon, they can give you +2 damage, but they impose a +2 penalty to attack tests due to their unwieldy nature. And again, there's some different rules. If you have a good success, rolling half of your attack stat, you'll get to do even more damage. And then you've got low-tech range, such as bows and arrows. There's different bows, different arrows that have different damage. Rules for firearms and auto fire. Pretty much they're going to eat up your armor die. And so you're going to run out of your ammo quicker whenever you use like auto fire and burst fire. There's rules for cover, obviously. Great rules here for destroying cover. Heavy weapons are very good. They're obviously going to eat up a lot of your how much stuff you can carry, but it lets you know about armor plating and how heavy weapons can do damage to them. heavy weapons can destroy cover. And then, of course, you know, some of the bigger weapons that you have. So very easy to see here. One-handed blunt melee, it's got the cost, the space, what range, and then any notes. And it has a chance to stagger, kind of like letting each one of these kind of give off an ability, such as a sharp melee might bleed, or again, blunt melees are going to possibly stagger you. So fairly easy to see. Here's your armor and weapons and stuff like that. Here's your ammo. Whenever you run out, it has the ammo die. So with like darts, you get a D6. You make your ammo check, your ammo die, and if you roll 1 or 2, it goes down to a D4. Roll 1 or 2 again next time, and you're out of darts or stars. Basic gear. One thing I really like about this, I think is neat, is he's got stuff in here like a book or magazine. It gives you +1 hit points during rest on yourself. So if you spend some time reading the book, you're going to get more hit points during your downtime, as well as a deck of cards for the whole group. I just think that's a neat way to enhance kind of downtime, camping, and stuff like that, to make it more homey and more cozy for you to get some more hit points back. I think that's very cool. There's repair armor kits and firearm and melee kits to be able to help your usage die get back up. And then you're going to go into your gameplay section here. Now, there are some stuff earlier on that I kind of had to reference back here when I was learning this game. So you're going to have to kind of jump around a little bit just to get your bearings of where the stuff is in this book. It's going to explain about the movement, the distance, the close, the nearby, far away, and then there's distant, how you can climb, swim, rough terrain. There's some rules here for chases, which is always good. Initiative is interesting. You roll a dex, you roll against your dex, lower than your dex, and if you fail, then you're going to act after the bad guys. Ranged attacks always win initiative tests versus melee if the melee characters are further away than close from the ranged foe. I really like that rule. But if you roll a good success, meaning half your dex, below half your dex, you get advantage on your action. I think that's great. And if you roll a 1 on your initiative check, you get an extra action. So it gives the initiative roll a little more power. But of course, you can roll dismal or, and that's gonna hurt you, rolling disadvantage to defend. It's gonna explain about the usage die and how those go down, the ammo die, the durability die. And then it's gonna talk about luck points. And these are fairly normal, what you would, assume. You can change a dismal failure to a normal failure, a failure to a success, success to good, good to great. But there's also something here that says luck points can also be used to create one fact of story fiction that does not invoke direct mechanical benefits to die rolls greater than -2. So they give you 2 examples of kind of how to use that, and it lets you, like right here, it says that a closing steel gate of a mutant compound gets hung up for a few seconds when you spin your luck point, and it gives them an opportunity to escape. This other scenario here, it says a player may spend a luck point to declare a guard is distracted, granting a -2 bonus to all characters to sneak past. So I think that's really neat to be able to use those luck points, and you can get them obviously for, playing. You get a fresh set of them, a fresh one at the beginning of each session, and then there's some mutant powers that, in essence, you have to use your luck point in order to use them. Are obviously very strong. And then it's going to go in talking about the melee combat, ranged combat, how to avoid damage, death and dying. You've got this little out of action table here that you may roll that might permanently mess up your stats, or you may be broken. One of these stats is permanently reduced by 4. I mean, that's very detrimental. And then, of course, dead, rest in peace. That's going to kill you if you roll that. But like if you roll hand-to-hand, unarmed combat, you're only going to roll with these first 3. So that's very cool. You're obviously not going to do some terrible, terrible damage, but you're probably going to knock them out. And then there's aftermath, what you need to do. Checking on your gear, whether or not it's broken, healing, and then it's going to tell you about how you level up. It's going to go into the Game Master section. There's a couple of conditions here that might happen to your character, such as, bleeding, 1 point of damage per moment. That's kind of how the rounds go. And then there's a cool section here on improved gear, and you can have like crappy gear and better gear that gives them a higher usage die if they're better, or a lower one if it's a real piece of crap gear. But it's cheaper, with the improved gear being twice as much to buy. Rules for all these things here: falling, freezing, fire, electrocution, radiation, dehydration. I wish there was also rules in here for food, but I'm certain you could come up with it. Gases, hazards as effects, how to roll for monsters. If they need to make a stat, like pretty much a stat roll, you can use you know, kind of this roll under for monsters thing here, or use their hit dice plus 9 and then roll under that number. There's rules here for character versus character combat. And then when to test for random encounters. I like the fact that it says 15 minutes of real world play is when you check. So that's neat. And then what to do with weaker foes. You can do 3 different things. A bonus to hit, pretty much a one-hit wonder. All you need to do is do 1 damage to them and they're knocked out. And then you can group monsters up into groups. They have more hit points, but once you do a certain amount of damage, they're going to become one-hit wonders. So different ways of dealing with it. Now here's something very different. It's called multi-stage foes. In essence, it has like here a mechanized titan. And you're going to go in different sections, attack different stages and sections of this huge mechanized titan. It's going to explain to you how it works. In essence, you could start off on the ground attacking its legs, and then once they're destroyed, you know, it's going to kind of come down, the body of it is. It's going to do more damage if you destroy the legs to each of the different parts. They each have their own hit points, and they all are going to have, like this mechanized titan's got a flamethrower and beam blasts, and so it's going to show you how you can pretty much whittle this thing away in a big boss monster fight. If you're up on a building or something and you can reach the head, then you can go ahead and start working on the head, and this mechanized titan explodes when it's destroyed. I mean, I think it's just a neat mechanic to kind of Shadow of the Colossus, you know, big, huge monsters. Rules for hirelings, they're actually very good. Sages can tell you about future tech objects, so that's very good to have. And then you're going to have what you get whenever you destroy humanoids, beasts, or robots. How many credits and stuff are you going to be able to get off of them? So that's obviously very helpful. There's some marvelous items as well. Mutagens, future tech, relics, and lost marvels, as well as schematics. And they give you some here, such as mutagens that can help you maybe switch out a mutation, give you a mutation, and stuff like that. They don't last for an extremely long amount of time. There is one that's permanent this here where you switch out a randomly generated mutation. Then you got some future tech here, such as laser pistols and plasma rifles. They're going to need energy cells, which are going to be hard to come by. So it's not like they're going to be extremely, like, everybody's going to have one. You've got relics, really weird stuff, crystals you can put in your forehead that give you powers. And these are, in essence, kind of like magical items. And then you've got lost marvels here as well. Advanced trauma kit. This is like the epitome of technology before the world was destroyed, is what some of these lost marvels are. And then schematics. It's really neat. So pretty much like if you can get 2 quality submachine guns, and those are the ones that are better, they're improved. You can, and you find the schematic, you can make this pretty much double submachine gun here. So it shows you what you need to build these schematics. So you're going to have to go out, and that could lead to an adventure mission all to itself, just to be able to find some of this stuff. Fuel cans, 2 of them, napalm gel, a leaf blower, which is a rare item, to be able to create this portable flamer here. So I just think that's, again, it's a smart idea, making you scrounge around and look for stuff. And again, maybe you're in a town, a frontier town or something, and you say, hey, I need a chainsaw. Like, have you seen this? What a chainsaw looks like? I need a machete. I need power cells to be able to create this chain sword. So very cool. I like a lot of that section there is great. And then you're going to go into your monster stats, how they deal with enemy armor points. Monsters have a set amount of damage they do by hit dice. And then here's kind of like the average. So if you wanted to, it seems like it's always +1 to the hit dice. So if you've got a 3 hit dice monster, it's going to do 4 points of damage if you just want to do that every time, or you could roll the damage. Rules for powerful opponents. It's pretty well known in Black Hack. They're pretty much going to be tougher for you to take down, of course, giving you a +1 for every hit dice above your hit dice. And then kind of a brief thing here explaining some of the abilities that some of the creatures have. And then each of them are statted out fully with a little bit of description in this the creature section here, with some cool art with these creatures here. And I like how they give you a human thug and a human militia. That's helpful. So there's the hit dice, there's the average hit points, special abilities that they have, and then of course, since they're 4 hit dice, they're going to do 5 damage in combat if you want to use that kind of quick roll. There's not a huge amount of them, but there's still a lot of good ones. There's that mechanized titan, so there are some big ones here. As you can see, the winged lizard is pretty much a dragon, and some of these creatures have more armor points because they're going to have armor kind of exactly the same. And then you've got a cool character sheet here. I like that a lot. I wish there was another place here for whenever you advance to level 5 and this becomes an 8 and that becomes a 6. But you can always try to draw it in here beside it. And then there's a glossary in the back here of kind of all its you know, terms and stuff like that. So there it is. There is the Wasted Hack. And, you know, I was really impressed by it. I like the art. I think it's different. I think it's fun. It doesn't always have to look like something from the 70s and 80s, OSR stuff. But he's done a lot of really cool stuff with the mutations are not super overpowered and crazy. I like all the old future, like the future tech and the mutagens and stuff like that. You are going to have to keep up with stuff like usage dies and ammo die. I'm certain there's some easy way to keep track of that. Maybe just having your dice in certain positions around, you know, your character sheet. The classes seem fun. I like the special features that each class gets. It lets them kind of, you know, you get to choose which ones you want to try to create your own character. And then I like the advanced special features ones. So I think that's going to be great. I think there's going to be a lot of moaning and groaning whenever you do roll 1 and 2 and some great ability all of a sudden doesn't work. And if it is for like a mutation, maybe it just doesn't, it still works, but it just doesn't work good enough to actually affect anything is kind of the way I describe it. There's some small little issues here and there with some of the writing, not very many, just some words that were omitted that make a sentence flow. But really, I didn't see anything that really jumped out at me. I like the way it looks. Again, like the font, the look, the way that the cover looks. It looks like a really fun game. And the other books here, we're going to talk about those in another video, so this doesn't run long. I know there's another class in here, so I can tell you about that, and then a whole bunch of other bad guys. So it might look a little cartoony, but I think it's actually pretty cool. So again, thank you to Shocker CK for getting these books to me. Big fan of them as well. I definitely would like to try it out. And I think if you're looking for a meatier game than like Merkborg or something like that, this could probably, you know, the Black Hack could probably do it for you. A lot of people do like the second edition of Black Hack, and I'm fine with just, since I'm new to it, just kind of learning the way the first edition of it is with these games that used it. So there it is. If you've liked this video, please like and subscribe. Let me know that you're out there. I love all the comments that you do, and if anybody wants to, you know, discuss about me doing a video for their product, same way that Shocker did, like he was nice enough to get these books to me. And if there's something that you're interested in, you know, we can talk about it, and maybe we'll take a look at it here on the channel. So again, like I said, we're getting close. I'm at 850 some subscribers. I'd love to get 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. I know this video has been a little bit long, but I wanted to really give it some good time for you to see what it's all about, since he did go through the trouble of getting this to me. So again, I think it looks really cool, and I think it's going to be a good addition if you want to have a lighter weight post-apocalyptic game with maybe a different system that you've never played before. That's fairly easy to understand. So there it is, the Wasted Hack. And down the road, we'll be taking a look at these two. I'll do these together as one video, and they've got a lot of cool stuff in them as well. So there it is, Wasted Hack. Appreciate your time, and I look forward to the next video.